Giants and the Eagles. Philly gets their revenge here. This time in Philly. A couple weeks later, it was in New York for Thursday Night Football. Giants got a surprise win there, but Eagles win this one 38-20. Top 5 graded players that we had for Philly. Running back Tank Bigsby, 94.7. Limited in his work, but pretty explosive. Center Brett Toth, I'm going to talk about him here in a second. 88.6, getting his first start for this team at center this week. He was excellent. Wide receiver Devontae Smith at 86.6. Offensive guard Tyler Steen at 84.9. Running back Saquon Barkley at 83.1. And then Jalen Hurts in this game, a little above average for where sort of a neutral grade would be for him at a 60.0. And he graded out with a 63.1. We'll talk a little bit more about Jalen Hurts in a second. But on the Giants side of things, edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeau at 85.3. Running back Tyrone Tracy at 78.1. Offensive tackle Jermaine Illuminor with a 75.5. Edge rusher Abdul Carter at 74.4. Rounding us out, it's Andrew Phillips, their cornerback, with a 72.0. Quarterback Jackson Dart in this game at 81.1. Dalton Stout told the story.
I think, once again, this is one of a few teams that just was outstanding running the ball, right? The Eagles are getting back to it. Now they're getting back to the formula they won a Super Bowl with, and the Eagles 8 explosive runs of 10 or more yards, their most since week 14 of last season. So it's starting to look like last year's offense. Last week against Minnesota started to get under center more. Multiple tight ends, jumbo packages with 6 offensive linemen getting downhill with more duo schemes in the run game. They leaned even further into that this week. 8 of those 8 explosive runs, 5 of them came from under center. 125 yards before contact. I know you have more stats on that, but second most in any game this year, only behind the Bills playing the Panthers at the same time. So it was a really good day for running it. I know it was National Tight End Day, but there were times it felt like National Running Back Day. And the Eagles, this needs to be the formula. Just like Josh Allen, I think we're watching the same game here. Jalen Hurts, I would put his grade and his performance in the good enough category, right? He made some nice play-action throws, especially that intermediate range. Without A.J. Brown, they really had to run the ball like this to score points. I think that made a big difference for him, and hopefully they can continue that when Brown does get back. And look, I'll just throw in my most impressive. Both backs were great. I think, something that I was a little worried about coming into the season was Saquon Barkley's workload that he had last year amidst a record-setting season. And the Eagles' lack of depth. They signed A.J. Dillon. He wasn't really panning out. Will Shipley doesn't really project as a between-the-tackles kind of back that you can rely on for 10, 12, maybe even 14 carries. I think he's more of a pass catcher, kick returner. You can use him in special situations. But trading for Tank Bigsby from Jacksonville gives them a more physical between-the-tackles option. You look at him, 9 carries for 104 yards. You'll take that. You'll take 11.5 yards a carry all the time.
Any team
Five explosive runs on just 9 carries and force 5 missed tackles. You get that guy in there to spell Barkley on a day like this when Barkley himself, 14 carries is all he needed to get 150 yards. We know how explosive he is, plus he caught a touchdown. These two guys could be a really fun tandem. I think the addition of Bigsby to this room to really give them a true RB2, just to not have Barkley, even if you're trying to run the football more. Last year they led the league in run rate. If you're trying to do that again, it's going to be hard to have Barkley doing it by himself for a whole nother season and another postseason run. I think that's a big addition, and their offensive line played very well on the interior, especially, like you mentioned.
Yeah, we talked about yards before contact for the Buffalo Bills and how when they are running at a clip where they're having that much success before contact, you're not really going to lose many football games. And I think that was the case here with the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's what we've been begging them to do, is get back to running the football and really being a team that's sort of this smash mouth and we'll take it to you. And certainly whether it's between the tackles or outside the tackles, whatever the Eagles are doing, it was working for them against the Giants yesterday. 8.3 yards before average, yards before contact average for Saquon Barkley. 141 of those total yards came before contact for the team overall. And so it was just an excellent job by the offensive line. And I think that they were my most impressive. I want to go to the Eagles offensive line specifically. Toth, Steen, Dickerson, all of these guys on the interior had run blocking grades above 85. And I think that Toth is the one who really stands out to me because he's sort of been this journeyman around the NFL. He's been on practice squads. He's been cut by teams. He's been in and out of lineup. He's not been on Philly for a little bit here, but 34.6 impact run blocking percentage in this game, is which it was his first starting at the center position with Cam Jurgens out. And so I thought he did an excellent job. And going back and watching his film, he was just he's everything that you would want for sort of that center position. He's firing off the ball low. He's winning with leverage. He's getting to the second level. He's dictating the first contact. He's knocking those defensive linemen back initially and not really giving them a chance to gain ground and fire off the football. His quickness, his leverage, his technique I thought was excellent in this game. I read an interview afterwards where he was talking about how he's somebody who overthinks a lot, and so he's like, my first week where I was starting as a center, I felt like I was overthinking a lot throughout the week. I was kind of getting in my own head, and I kind of just let myself play pretty freely today, and I tried to not overthink it, and you could tell he's got the talent, or at least he's got the technique and the execution to be able to have a really good run-blocking day in the middle of that offensive line, and he really did, and so he was the big shout-out for me here in this one.
Yeah, no, I agree. One more guy I'll throw in there is Fred Johnson. He's really the sixth offensive lineman. And another guy, wasn't it Jacksonville who had him, and then the Eagles traded for him back as well, where the Jaguars are just feeding Philadelphia everything they need right now. Jeez. But no, Fred Johnson as the sixth offensive lineman, and what that's been doing schematically for them, too, when they get under center in these big sets, running the football, and then it sells the play action even more so for Jalen Hurts when he is under center. And that's what's working for the Eagles right now. They should just stick to that formula.
Most impressive or most disappointing? Anything we didn't hit for you?
I mean, it just really sucks to see this Cam Scatterbo injury. Dude. I mean, really, I know Jackson Dart's the quarterback and the captain and all that, but Cam Scatterbo was really the heart and soul of this team.
I agree,
and
100%.
it really sucks to see that. And hopefully we'll see him relatively early next year coming off an injury like that, and he can get back to 100%. But he really he made the Giants a lot of fun to watch this year, as he did in college at Arizona State, too. Yep. So, you wish him a speedy recovery, because that was really – him and Dart together in that backfield were really the catalyst behind the Giants' success the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I think that the injury itself, obviously, like we all hate to see that, and it sucks. But when you now compound that with Malik Neighbors,
yeah,
now we get in a situation where how fair is it to judge Brian Daboll now this year? And some Giants fans may be like, no, we want him out anyways. Like we've had years to judge him, and I think that there's merit to what you guys would be saying on that side of things with just the volume of years that you've had with Brian Daboll. But it kind of sucks because there were good things that were going on this year once Jackson Dart got inserted in the lineup, once they had Cam Scatterbo to lean on as a rusher and a receiver out of the backfield. And can you imagine how good it could have looked with Malik Neighbors then getting into the fold, and if he would have been fully healthy? And I think that's the part that just really sucks is the Giants might come to the conclusion, and Giants fans might come to the conclusion that they just want to move on and they don't want to have Brian Daboll anymore. And there's a better chance than not that the Giants are going to be a below 500 team, and they're just not going to be very good this year, especially with their stars on offense now all going down for the season, or most of them going down for the season. It just sucks anytime you're in an evaluation year and two of the best players that you have on your side of the expertise, your side of the ball where you have the expertise, you don't even get to use at their disposal anymore.
I think two factors are going to play the role in Daboll's fate. One, how hard do they continue playing? Because I think that's a big thing. They've been playing with a ton of effort lately and being close. They're not as close in this game because Saquon in the run game just dominated. But how much effort does this team continue to play with on a week-in, week-out basis? And then the big thing is the development of Jackson Dart. And he has looked very good since he's been the starter. Can he continue to do that through even further adversity? I think that'll really show itself and be a reflection of Daboll there on the sideline as well.
We do have a $2 super chat. If you want to dig into this one really quickly, this is from Skywalker, $2 super chat. He's like, why do you guys hate Brian? Meaning Brian Burns. Brian Burns in this game because he wasn't a top 5 graded player that we had here. Brian Burns got a sack in this game. Had a pressure, but didn't grade super well overall. We don't have the sack as a win percentage, I don't think, because his win percentage was low in this game. But run defense also brought this game down, or brought his grade down a little bit. He had a 46.2 run defense grade in this one. He had 16 run defense snaps. Didn't make a tackle in this game, had a missed tackle in this game, which will obviously hurt you a little bit. Positively and negatively graded run defense plays were near even, but the missed tackle certainly hurts when that's the case. But, I think it's the run defense grades that were a little bit lower, and even with the sack that he had, he wasn't consistently a difference-making pass rusher in this game, from a one-on-one standpoint.
Just the Eagles won this game in the trenches, on the offensive side especially, and that's just what's going to happen on the other side of that.
Yeah, I'm looking at I'm watching the sack now. Yeah, so even the sack from Burns, I mean, this is a play where Hurts hangs onto the ball for 5 seconds, and he's going up against a double team. He's never really expected to beat that, but he gets around them 3.5 seconds into the play, and Hurts just runs straight back into Brian Burns. So it's one of those, it's like, okay, like, obviously the sack is good. You came up with the sack, but we're not individually giving you a ton of credit for making the sack more than 4 or 5 seconds into a play, especially when Hurts was looking one way. He was looking this way. Brian Burns is behind him, rushing from that side of the line. And he, like, spins this way. And as he spins, he meets Brian Burns again 4 or 5 seconds into the play. So that's just to give people an idea of sort of how we grade. That's one where, yes, you get the sack. Obviously, it's a good play. We're not saying that you have, like, we're not saying that the sack is, like, a bad result, but you're not necessarily winning from a one-on-one standpoint.
Like you mentioned about the offensive lineman, now you have it on the defensive side where, yeah, it's you get to that point where if you get past that 3.5 second mark where you get credit, you will get a positive grade, but not at the highest level, whereas if you beat a guy in 1.8 seconds and just completely collapse the pocket. Also in a situation where Hurts was charged with 2 of the sacks that he took in this game as opposed to the offensive line, it would be very likely that that's one of them holding on to the ball and spinning back into the pressure.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Like Walt is saying, wait, you don't have a sack as a win percentage. How is that possible? That's how it's possible. It's like, if you go watch this specific play, you go watch the Brian Burns play, you'll see, yeah, he eventually gets by those 2 players, but you wouldn't really categorize that play as him winning his assignment on the play. Now, again, he's getting double teamed, so I think that
there's a category, like especially late play sacks and scrambles like that we put into the cleanup category.
Yeah.
Is essentially what we call it. So you do get credit for the end result of that.
Right.
But because it's the cleanup element to it that it's not considered, if you're getting at 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever the time to throw was on that play, if you're getting it that late, and again, it's pretty clearly because Hurts held on to the ball too long, then yeah, that 1 rep wouldn't go into the win rate.
Yeah. So just explaining that a little bit more, but we love all those sorts of questions. So if people have those, we'll always try to answer them as best as we possibly can.